He's so Vaeni. He's so Vaeni.
Yaloha, he's so Vaeniers. I come to you bearing gifts. Oh yes, I come to you with a video that says, this is what Kundalini awakening looks like. And I know what Kundalini awakening looks like. And I know what's about to happen here. And I know it ain't what Kundalini awakening looks like. But I want you to see what it looks like when you're not awakened to Kundalini at all. I've already set us all up for failure. I'm sorry. Gosh, Kundalini awakening sure looks a lot like orgasm, doesn't it? So I think this is the CAP, Kundalini activation process. I believe this is the man who invented it. And I think, I'm using all this non-committal language because I don't have access to the internet where I am, but I believe that this is all true. And if it's not, I will immediately let you know. That he was a disciple of Adi Da, who, aka Da Free John, aka Bubba Free John, aka something else. I don't know. Anyway, probably not coincidentally, Adi Da ran, at least in the beginning, sort of a hedonistic cult. Or at least they experimented with sex and all of that by way of enlightenment or just plain pleasuring the leader. I don't know. Anyway, so he comes from there. And so is it a coincidence that this orgasmic Kundalini thing is his shtick? Probably not. What's interesting to me is, like, would Adi Da agree with all of this? Because Adi Da was like, you can only get enlightenment through me. You can only through me, with me, because cult leader. It's also interesting to me that this looks a lot like, especially this woman right now, the evangelical laughing stuff, like in the church, where the televangelist goes, bah! And alakazam, abracadabra, and then the congregation is like, ah, ha, 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 and has a laughing fit. If you've ever seen those outrageous videos, pretty similar to that. Let's see what else is going on here, if anything. So the thing is, again, I've said this in another video, or maybe two, probably just the one. Kundalini does these crazy movements and stuff, but they all have purpose. There is no just like, ooh, I'm dancing like a hippie, for no reason. Or like being in a state of orgasm. That's not a thing.
So a lot of people watching this will be seeing this kind of activity for the first time ever in their life.
Right. Well, sorry about that, because it's a bit of a shock to the system.
And it might be hard to believe. What would you say to those people?
They won't believe it. There's nothing I can say. I've got old friends who are, who are mathematicians and scientists, and they work in the finance industry. They accept it. But you can't change someone's worldview. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's not my job. I'm here to only help the people who kind of want to go deeper into consciousness, into God. Yeah.
So now I haven't watched this all the way through. I knew from the setup what this was going to be, not the interview part, but in terms of the visuals. So I don't know what he's going to say here, but he better say what that means. Like, again, we're stuck with a lot of this New Age stuff of people using extravagant words and sentences that have no content to them, no meaning. They don't say, like, what does it mean to go deeper into consciousness and God or no God or whatever God? Like, this interviewer, instead of being like, yeah, should be like, oh, what the hell are you talking about?
It's hard enough when someone really, really wants to grow into God, into truth. It's already hard enough, let alone trying to convert people who don't want to or have no interest. They'll, eventually it'll come, they'll get there in their own time.
So what are we talking about? Because truth, as Jiddu Krishnamurti once noted, is a pathless land. Oh yes, there is no converting people to truth. There is no forcing anyone to do anything, as he's saying, but it's not because it's hard to break their disinterest. It's because literally that cannot work. That truth is not a thing to be gotten to through any practice, through any means. It's really simply, if there is such a thing as truth, which is not put together by, which is not comprised of thought, then the thinker needs to not be there for truth to be the case. So if there is such a thing as truth, and the reason that you keep it in question is because the second you assert anything, you're out of it. you're in a thought construct. But so if there is such a thing as truth, then it will perhaps be the case when you're not there. So activating Kundalini while people are like, ooh, da 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 da, cha, la kukura, cha, nah.
But even a skeptic who comes to your class would have an experience, you've said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually husbands or boyfriends get dragged along by their partners, and they'll sit there during the whole talk and go like this. I had this big butch guy in San Francisco. His brother's wife brought him along, and then he looked like he was a big stock. He looked like a truck driver. And then he moved more than everyone. He was just going crazy. And at the end, he told us, he said, I was totally skeptical. I just came here just to keep, what's he quiet. And he goes, well, I'm a believer now. It's real. And those people, they get the most high. They just jump around and go, oh my God, it's real. It's real.
But what is it that is real? Watching your wife like a cuck get off to this handsome man diddling her navel and whatnot. What is it that's real?
Spirit is real.
And when you're waving your hand over somebody's body, what's happening in that moment?
I don't know. It just does. I just get an intuition or a feeling. Even to say I get an intuition to move in a certain area is at an extra level of doing. A lot of the time I'm just not even thinking. I'm just sort of not there. It just happens. Yeah.
That should be true. I mean, if any of this is true, that would be true. It's not intuition. It's not your thought. It's not anything. You're out of the way, and the energy itself is moving around. So he at least knows that is correct to say out loud. Whether he's doing it or not, I'll leave that up to you, even though I've front-loaded you with my own prejudice. See, like this stuff, the vocalizations and all of that, this is acting. This is acting out. This is, I've talked about this in another video, acting out a taboo in a public setting, right? Like, just sort of being loud and random and orgasmic, and especially for women who are still, right, the more oppressed of the sexes. This can, be psychologically relaxing for some people who come from maybe like uptight backgrounds or have a stifling partnership with a so-called loved one,
CAP stands for Kundalini Activation Process. And if all of this looks like a scene from a 70s hippie commune, listen to what CAP creator Venant Wong has to say.
When you see them moving and shaking.
Okay, so I was right. He is the creator of this. This is Cap. And so you might as well just believe me about the Adida stuff. He comes from the school of Adida, which, again, at least in the beginning, was like a hypersexualized cult. And he was even, was it 60 Minutes or 2020 or one of those, back in the 80s, did a piece on him where some women had come out and said that he had sexually abused them. I don't remember if he sexually abused their children. I don't remember. But at least these women, he moved the cult out of America to Fiji. That's sort of where I lost track. I've read a couple of books of his, and I've seen some talks of his on YouTube. And he's an interesting fellow. Let's just say that. But again, I can't stress it enough. This guy comes out of that. What are the odds?
And especially when you see it live in person for the first time, you just go, whoa, the people, and then I might have some demonstration, people in the front, and then people go, wow, what was going on inside? And the people in the demo, and they go, nothing. Like internally, nothing's going on. You're just resting as the witness, and your body's just moving and shaking. Yeah, and you could be even crying and screaming, and even the crying, there's often no story attached. It's like, oh, I was crying, it's really sad, and wailing even, but what was it about? Nothing. It was just like emotions being released or energy moving through.
Well, I think it is emotions being released, energy being released, but I think you're giving them permission to do it. I think that's the difference. It's weird. It's like Kundalini energy, when one is so alive, has more of a discipline to it than this. And all of this stuff that these people are doing, the emoting and the writhing around and all of that, it's just not adding up. Even though, again, like Kundalini will do things that look suspiciously like some of these things with the body, but probably not for long, and because it's doing other movements. It's almost as if like you've got a set of movements that whatever this energy is knows to do. So one of those movements may be like convulsing, but that's going to give way to the next movement, to the next set of things, to the next, until it's over. So if you're just lying there convulsing and flopping around like a fish and that's it, probably you're lying to yourself. Probably, and it doesn't mean there aren't benefits to lying to yourself. Like this woman's about to have a mental breakdown and maybe work on some issues. Who knows? But do you, or do you have to keep coming back? And then the other thing is, you look at this and it's obviously hypersexualized and geared toward women. So is this not just like another sort of fantasy? I get to master this and I get to become this guy and I can do this with women or men or whatever. Like, it's just all very ick to me.
Through the body.
Somebody told me yesterday that it's very pleasurable too.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Sensual energy can move through sexual energy. That can happen. And so that's the sort of sensual, sexual aspect of it.
So sexual and sensual energy can move through you. So does he say this in a talk beforehand? Because he mentioned that he has a talk and the men all sit there like, because you're front-loading people with an expectation of what's going to happen, right? So they can already pick and choose. This is like, God, I keep bringing it back to ufology in these videos, but it's like alien abductions with hypnosis. Like if you go to a hypnotist who you know works on alien abductions, and you think that you've been abducted by aliens, you already know what they think about it. And then they have a sit-down chat with you beforehand, and all of this is front-loading you with the expectation of what you're going to pull out of you as a memory, of how how it should be interpreted. And of course, you want to please the hypnotist because you don't want to waste their time. And it's all the same stuff here, right? Like you listen to this guy, he tells you what possibilities to expect. And you're going to latch onto the ones that you actually really desire. So, which is usually like an orgasm. But the idea that sexual and sensual energies can rise is true, but again, it's in service to something.
That energy. Not everyone has it. Certain people tap into that.
And so for people who don't understand, what is Kundalini?
Okay. Kundalini, it can be used in different terms, and there's no fixed definition of it. Most people refer to Kundalini as, just the self-will practices where you're generating energy. Kundalini yoga, or the Taoist sexual practices, raising the energy up. The chi, Kundalini, chi, life force is all the same thing.
Is it? I don't think it is. I think it's not that. I think Kundalini, it is, I don't know that this is what it is, but it's more correct to think about it, I think, in terms of spirit energy. I mean, if you're going to say life force, then a life force that is comprised of spirits, as in flavors of ghosts of people and animals and stuff, in this, one flux, this one sort of continuum. And whoever's expertise is needed in the moment comes to the fore to do that through the body, not as a possession, but almost as like, if you were to drink a fine wine and you taste those notes on your tongue, it's like that, but you're not drunk, maybe? Also, I just want to say, it's interesting that if he honestly believes that the sensual and sexual aspects are something that may come to the fore, not a big deal, well, then that means that it doesn't happen a lot for you with your group here, which means that either you're lying about that and it's always happening because that's what it looks like, or the reason it looks that way is because you're trying to sell sexuality or sex or orgasm through playing this. Otherwise, why not focus in on the guy in the background just kind of like doing this on the floor, right? We're focusing in on the pretty women doing the orgasm stuff. So is it that sex sells and you need sex to sell Kundalini? Or is it that this is actually happening more than you're letting on? What is it, guy?
Now, most practices are self-will. You use determination and your consciousness and will to move energy, generate your own energy. This is different. This is a transmission of energy and from one consciousness to another. And so it's almost a downward, the other one's an upward driving energy. This is more a downward descending spirit force. And it's closer to Shaktipat. In India, they call it Shaktipat.
Yeah.
And it's just...
Okay, so I would say none of this is Kundalini. The forcing it through breath work or meditation or tantric sexual whatever practices of trying to make an energy rise, if you're going to say that that is something else like chi, life force, prana, whatever, okay, I don't know anything about those things, so sure. But it ain't Kundalini. And if you're going to say that Kundalini is a spirit that comes down or a force that comes down in through your head and works down and then into people, or works through you and goes down into their heads somehow, no, I don't know what you're doing there. I mean, maybe you're doing something. I don't know. All I'm saying is it ain't Kundalini. And these things are important to note because these other energies that you're talking about may be that you access them through training or through transmission or whatever. But actual Kundalini is only the case when you are not. There's no one there to try. There's no one there to practice. There's no one there to deliver it to or from.
It's just given. Yeah.
Isn't that usually when the guru initiates their student?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, in India they use the guru, devotee thing, but it's really just conscious transmission from one being to another. And really, that happens in anything. If you're learning an art form, you have an apprentice and a teacher, and it's more beyond just the transmission of the skills. It's the transmission of their energy, their capacity. You just hang around them, and you kind of just get it.
Yeah.
It's really, that's what it is.
Well, there's a clue. So if you hang out with the artist long enough, you kind of, it's like how owners start to look like their pets. You start to take on the traits of the master if you're the apprentice. Yeah, these people are hanging out with you and they're like, oh, I know what he expects. Let's start doing it. Like, yeah, this is basic psychology is what he's describing.
What are some of the experiences you hear usually after a person's first session?
I did one class in San Diego. Second class, a week later, they came back and I say, okay, what's been happening? This is what I do. I kind of say, tell me what was your experience and what's been happening since I last saw you. First person, I gave up smoking. Second person, I gave up drinking. Third person, I quit my job.
After one session?
Yeah. Usually the job that they've hated for years and been meaning to do.
Yeah. Things
Things that they've always wanted to do, that knew they had to, but they didn't. They just never got around to it. They didn't have that will to push through it, and it just happens.
That doesn't make sense to me at all either. Why would you... that actually does sound like hypnosis. I quit smoking. I no longer overeat. My PTSD is a lot better. No, this is Kundalini. It isn't a lot. It's not an event that happens and then guess I'm done with smoking. Guess I'm going to quit my job now. That's not a thing. So whatever the psychological benefits that are associated with whatever he's doing, which again may just simply be giving people permission to act out in a social setting with acceptance and validation, these taboo things, which frees you up, you become unclenched and and yeah, your life changes. You want to make changes in your life. You feel healthier, you feel better. Maybe you are better in some way. But this incremental betterment has nothing to do with Kundalini.
You're just aligned with your higher self and it just happens.
My name is Michael. I'm from New York City, and I'm a Cap virgin.
By the way, there's no such thing as the higher self. That is a lie. That is a lie. That is a lie.
Welcome.
Thank you.
My name is Paula, and I think I've done Cap maybe 7 times or so.
When you guys were doing all this, I felt this energy inside me, and I got scared. So then I was like, what is happening? I was losing myself, and I just started moving kind of. I felt so much vibrations, I don't know what's happening, but I felt fearful, and I just kind of surrendered, and I just felt something really powerful, so it was amazing.
Yeah, you felt like you were at a rave. I mean, that's the thing. This is where it gets tricky to me in talking about this stuff, which is if I talk about the sense of self is no more, and someone like this talks about losing herself, or feeling afraid of what's going on, and then you're just okay, forget. I'm gonna let it go. I'm not talking about letting it go. I'm not talking about losing yourself. These are things you can do at a rave, at a techno dance party, right? These are things you can get lost in the music and oohs and that, getting lost in the moment or whatnot. No, I'm talking about something that actually usually takes work in terms of working on yourself. Not losing yourself and then you come back and then you make some changes and then you go on and you've got the same problems that have just, evolved or morphed into some other facade, we always have the same bunch of problems and then we get rid of them and then more problems come at us and usually they're the same problems but with different people or different situations and so they feel different but they're the same. You know what I mean? No, this is the ending of all that crap.
Even though I have these vibrations in my head.
So for most people, they kind of live in this narrow range of feeling, a little bit good, a little bit bad, yeah? They allow only a certain amount of feeling capacity. But what this energy does, it opens that capacity to feel. So in terms of what you actually do, you just lie down on a yoga mat, I put some music on, me and the facilitators will just wave our hands over you, touch certain spots on your body, chakra points. And your job is basically to relax as deeply as possible. Yeah, and that sounds easier than it is. Yeah, to really deeply relax, to relax your mind, to have no thought, no attachment to anything. Yeah.
So if this is what happens when you relax your mind, what I'm talking about is when there is no mind left to relax, what happens? This idea of a higher self keeps you grounded in thought. It's still another thought construct. And it's another, sort of like a schizophrenia, like, oh, I'm me, but I'm not really me. Really me is up there, the higher self. I got to reach that guy. I got to talk to him, or something. But no, this isn't, Kundalini is not, has nothing to do with relaxation, relaxing your mind, trying not to think, all of that. Uh-oh.
Okay, so we're on a break right now. We just finished the first part of the first day, and I fell right into it. I mean, before the music even started, I was having this like almost euphoric experience, and I fell right into it. I was moving my body, my neck, I could feel everything. And then something happened, and I got into my own head where I started producing this video in my head, and I was thinking like, okay, what am I gonna shoot later? What am I going to film next? And as I started to do that, I kind of fell out of the trance and the movement that I was in. And I had the same experience that I had when I was doing plant medicine in Costa Rica, which was I was in a room full of people having their own experience. They're screaming, they're laughing, they're dancing, and something happens where when I'm in a room like that, all my energy goes to them, and I just get out of my own experience. And so that happened, and for the rest of the time I kind of just lay there. But that first part was still an incredible experience, and we still have a whole weekend ahead of us, so we'll see.
Part of his problem is that like he starts thinking about like, oh, how I'm going to film this and blah, 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 and then I'm out of it. Or I start concentrating on what other people are doing and then I'm out of it. And with Kundalini, the no self thing, the thing where you dissolve and Kundalini becomes the case, that's, in a certain sense, that is the one-time event that needs to occur for the blockage that is you to no longer be the blockage. After that blockage has dissolved, like I could shut up for a second, Kundalini will start moving me around, and I can think about other things. I could even talk to you as it's happening. So thinking about other things doesn't take you out of it. Even talking to people doesn't take you out of it. It may sort of lessen the connection in some way than pure silence would, but it doesn't take you out of it. There's two operating systems going on, you and Kundalini. And initially, you are in the way, blocking the Kundalini. And when you are not blocking Kundalini, then you're parallel, right? So there's that. And then you don't need music to get into character. You don't need to relax. Like all of this stuff is accoutrement, right? It's, you gotta like center yourself, and none of that is real. None of that stuff applies at all. I don't know what to tell you, except that whatever he's selling, this is not Kundalini awakening. And it would be a little bit more offensive to me if I was 100% certain that he knew that too.
Cool. That's it, I think. Yeah. That's it.
That's it?
Yeah. All right.
All right.
When he had everyone like showing them in the beginning,
my first reaction was like, there's no fucking way that's happening. I mean, it's got to be staged or something like that, right? That was my first reaction. And then when we all started, we laid down, closed our eyes. I was like, yeah, this is not gonna happen. I don't know, it's just kind of like that. So very soon, I don't even know what happened exactly, but just all of a sudden, I just felt my body moving. It was incontrollable. Like I couldn't control it. It was just involuntary movements, and nothing that was. I think it was just more strange than anything, because I didn't have control over it. And at one point, my mind was like trying to understand, like, how is this possible? How is my body moving without me actually moving it? And at one point, my mind just said, like, okay, I guess this is really happening. So I'm just gonna leave,
This guy, is he an example of the person sitting in the corner going, bah humbug, this is all bullshit? And then he's like, oh, wow, I guess this is real. And he's like, what? How is it possible? Well, one way it's possible is, again, in a practical sense, on our Undoing Radio, I'd interviewed a hypnotist who said that stage hypnosis, where people cluck like chickens and jump around and stuff for a stage hypnosis act, that's not all acting, that's actually, people are doing that. But the little known secret is that 9 times out of 10, they're not really, like some people are like extremely hypnotizable and they'll do that, but some people are not. But there's such a sense of like shame that you feel for the hypnotist that you will go with the flow and start doing it so that he doesn't feel bad because you don't want to feel bad and you don't want to make him feel bad or her, right? Like, so there's that, which I would never have known. I would never have thought that, but apparently that's a known dynamic. And that that's happening here. That they're, if you're going to partake in this, and especially if like your girlfriend or your wife or whoever is like all into it, it's like, okay, there's a certain amount of people who are going to go with the flow. That's the practical element to it, or answer to it. The impractical, or other practical, is that the body does have its own natural language that it expresses, that Kundalini brings alive, but is not limited to just that expression. But can that expression itself be activated through other means, like these other life forces that he's talking about and saying that they're all the same? What if they're not? What if there is a way to, just like with acupuncture or acupressure, tapping into an energy center, does that cause movements? I mean, beyond just like spasms and stuff, does it cause some sort of reflexive movements that go with that energy center? I mean, that's a possibility. I don't know, but I'm just throwing that out there. I'm just saying there are possibilities. Is there anything else left to say, or is the well gone dry here?
So on day 2, I was surrounded by orgasmic sounds, and while I didn't experience that, I wanted to know what they were feeling in that moment. Hey, Raquel, so we just did the meditation part of the class. You were sitting right next to me, and you and I were having 2 wildly, completely different experiences. So tell me what you were going through.
I could feel you, for sure.
What were you feeling?
Okay. I was, well, for starters, there was a lot of orgasmic energy.
With me?
No.
With you?
Yeah, just like in my body, in my cells, if you want to say it like that. And
I don't want to say it like that. There's nothing else to see here. I mean, hey, we were having wildly different experiences. You were coming and I was going. Why is that? Well, you see, if you were to have an orgasm too, you're a man. So that would be creepy and gross. I'm a woman, so not only is it sexy for you and therefore acceptable in that way, it's the taboo release thing is going on here. Like, this isn't a real thing, is what I'm telling you. The orgasmic aspect that is the selling point of this has nothing to do with Kundalini. There may be a sexual energy that gets triggered by, diddling around, plus expectations, plus your desire, plus your childhood, plus. Kundalini is when you stop adding all these things up, when they are no more, the real becomes the case. That's it. Is that so Vaeni, or is that just kind of what is? I'll tell you what's so Vaeni.
But there was a time when I was like moving, and I like, for some reason, I touched you, and like, I could feel your energy, and it was cool, I just tapped into infinite consciousness, and I felt so expanded and as if I was infinite, just like I'm everything but nothing at the same time. So when you tap into that, it's like you are liberated from everything, because you're not your body, you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions. So it's like you can feel the cosmic joke, it's like, fuck. So that's why I started laughing so hard. You heard me laughing,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So that's why I laugh so hard, because it's like, oh my God, like, really?
So maybe I'll just leave it there, or maybe I'll go a little further in and see what this guy has to say. But no, the cosmic joke is that you are all of those things. And when all of those things are not, the real is the case. And that isn't something that just happens like this. Like what you're describing is not that. What you're describing is something that you were taught and that you were expecting to happen when you just let go. But letting go, releasing, feeling as though you're in the moment. But there you still are thinking about all of this and going, oh, wow, I'm in the moment. Oh, this feels good.
So I have to be honest, during that experience, for me, the meditative part of it,
Yes.
Other than the point when, I don't know if it was you or somebody else touched me and I was shaking and
Yes,
feeling it.
yes.
Other than that, it was just a very meditative, it was like me doing a meditation in my room by
Yes,
myself.
yes.
What's the difference between what I was feeling, even though I did have that oneness and I felt super connected with everything around
Yes,
me in the world,
yes.
but it was just like kind of blissful and I just lay there.
Yes, yes.
What do you say to that kind of experience?
Okay. There's really two transmissions going on at the same time. The Kundalini, which is the life force, the chi, and that's where you see all the wild, crazy movement. And then the non-dual states, which is really not of the body. It's almost like taking you out of the body to some extent, especially this morning's meditation, which is different to the afternoon one. Now, the non-dual states is, in Tibetan Buddhism, they call it the subtle body, or the causal body, and it's a more subtle phenomena. So more people will feel the Kundalini because that's easier to feel, but the non-dual states is more difficult to feel. Yeah.
I like how we talk about non-duality, which means one, not two, as if there are separate things going on, right? Non-dual states. What do you say? Non-dual or non-causal or something? Body, like, we love to add in all these mechanics and junk to just gunk up what oneness should mean, which is oneness, question mark?
And what you're describing as, you feel oneness, it's probably, for a lot of people, they'll have that, but it's more from a mental acceptance level. Yeah. And if you've heard from the sharings today, when it becomes overwhelmingly real, they're just in shock. Yeah, it's like, this is one thing. Yeah, you notice a difference between just,
Yeah.
what you're hearing in the rooms.
So this is interesting. He's saying that the oneness thing that people are feeling is mental. And then they get into it, man. And then they start to figure out oh man, I'm blowing my own mind with what this really means. There really is oneness. We're all one. Okay, dude, this is the second time you yourself have applied psychology to this and I guess not understood it or something. But now apply it to the Kundalini part that you say is the life force coming in and making people move around. Is that not also psychological based on expectation? I mean...
And that, I'm at peace. It's a different kind. It's more subtle, and mentally, descriptively, mentally, it's the same thing. It's like, you're just verbally describing the same thing, but the emotional impact of being that as your direct experience is totally different. That's what makes the changes.
So Kim, during the share, I really liked your experience. Were you like me, where you didn't really have like what was going on around us, which was like the orgasmic, like, was it just pretty calm for you?
I was calm. I did move some, and I had some sounds.
Okay.
I can't say that I had the orgasmic.
Right. Same.
Yeah, I was trying to get out of my head because I kept listening to that, and I was like, "Ooh, I want some of that," but I had to keep leaving that because that wasn't occurring for me. But a lot of bliss. Just even if I was moving, it was just like super peaceful and calming.
And also a pretty big epiphany for you, right?
Yes.
Tell me about that, which was like beautiful and sad at the same time.
Right, so the epiphany I guess the epiphany happened after, but during the session, I was just one with the universe, and it was so amazingly incredible to just have that feeling that we're all the same. And so that was just beautiful. And then as we came out of the session and we had to come back into our body, I guess that's when it hit me, and I was so sad, and I started crying, and I was like...
Why sad?
I was sad because I was like, when I was in the session, it was like, there's no race, there's no skin color, right? We all are just one human melting light energy. And then to come out and be like, shit, now I have to come back to life, where race is really important. Like, I can't neglect race. I can't go around and say, hey, don't look at my race, or race doesn't matter. I'm an English professor, and so I do a lot of equity work on my campus, and I get to pick my own theme for my class since it's English, basically composition. And so recently I've been doing the theme of race and racism and white privilege. And so having that like hit me that there's no race, and then I have to go back and then talk about
And your whole class is about that.
My whole class. Tomorrow, we have readings on the Fair Housing Act and how that impacted people of different races differently. And so how do you navigate both those things, knowing that we're just one, but also knowing that in society we are seen by our race, and it could have positive or negative impacts on your life, depending on what race you are.
So... I'm glad I stuck around, because that's really interesting. Talk about white privilege. It's the white privilege of the Barbie doll figure white women to have the orgasms, while the black woman has to, still deal with race. It's like, you laugh or you explode, right? Like, these are our options. This actually gets to the problem that I was going to say before I started watching her actually talking eloquently about it, which is that when you make oneness or blissed out states or whatever a pit stop on the way back to being you, whether it be through whatever this is, or psychedelics or whatever, or a raves can do that for you. That oneness experience, that's not, again, as I'm explaining here, that's not just a feature of whatever this is. You can get that in a whole myriad ways. The problem is when you come back and you're still you, and society is still society. So, like she's saying, what do you do? Then there's sadness. There's, that could be like an existential crisis. And then you think like, oh, there's a dark side to oneness. But that's the dark side of the self remaining intact as you experience these things, as opposed to being them, as opposed to the self not being there at all and oneness being the case. Because when that selflessness and that authentic interconnection with all, not just like a brief epiphany of like, oh, we're all one. But like, no, that is you. That blissed out feeling becomes you. That is your natural state, at least for a while, unless you're a dummy like me and then you evict yourself from it on purpose. But if you're not dumb like me, maybe you can stay there. Feel pretty good for the rest of your life. But even for a dummy like me, all of this gets recontextualized so that the frustration is much less. Like, obviously, I'm still laughy, jokey, arrogant guy, right? But also deeply, I am more, consciously more, not just, not just striving to be that. So, like, I always am aware of the plight of racism, for instance, but also aware that we are interconnecting in one, and that there's that. The frustration is much less, is what I'm saying. It's not more. It's not heightened because of it, because the onenessy thing isn't knowledge and it's not an experience. I am also that. So I guess the frustration is more like ripples on an ocean or something. It's like I'm the one ocean, and there's this wind of craptasticness. There's this wind of evil or whatever, just blowing ripples, and it's sort of a minor annoyance in a sense. And the frustration is that other people don't get this, what they truly are, what we all truly are. That's the frustrating part. But again, the frustration is like tempered with the peace inside that we are. It's maybe it's hard to explain. It's almost like if you've got the angel and the devil on your shoulder, that old trope. If the devil couldn't be as loud as the angel, it would be like living that way. Like, yeah, it's a minor, like, yip, 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 chihuahua dog of a devil on your shoulder. But you are the angel, and you are the devil. And the second that you understand that, and you're you, and your nothingness, which contains all of that, once all of that is you, even if you have to live in this world, this doesn't have the effect that it used to. What it triggers is compassion. So not depression so much, not anger so much, although sometimes anger, but compassion. And, anger in terms of the frustration that, again, we're all living here by these psychotic, unnatural rules that we have set up for ourselves, and we call that a healthy society. We expect war, it's just, it is madness. But when you have direct experience of the lack of confusion about that madness, it no longer has a stranglehold on you. So you completely understand it. You understand, it's not as though the blissed outness divorces you from the reality of racism in the world, or sexism, or war, or, whatever anti-religious thing you want to throw in there, any of it, any of the awful anti-stuff, anti-trans, all the bigotry. It's not that all goes away. It's not that you repress your ill will toward anti-ness, anti-people. It's not a repression. It's a recontextualization through understanding. And so it no longer has a stranglehold on you. It still has a stranglehold on society, but part of the understanding is understanding that it's always going to have that stranglehold, because not everyone is going to come to this, right? Like, it's just, so in other words, your life then becomes one of doing the right thing to do the right thing, not because, like, for instance, I'm doing this. Why am I doing this? Why do I do Hour and Doing Radio? Why did I write Urgency? Why do I do these things? I'm not going to be big and famous. I'm not going to make a ton of money off this. In fact, like, if 60-something people watch this video is doing well. I know that. I'm not delusional about, like, I'm going to, become rich and famous off any of this. Or that I'm going to reach people in such a way that they wake up and they understand what I understand. It'd be great if they did, but I'm not delusional that way. You speak how you speak because it's the right thing to do. You do what you do for the sake of doing it. That's what you become, not because you want a result or expect a result. You can't. There's not going to be that result. So you hope that like you, there's at least the one person out there who will have the aha moment in some of what you say. You hope that. But whether they do or not, even the one, is irrelevant. You've got to say something, and now these are the things you say. You've got to express yourself in the world. You've got to be here, and this is how you be here. Or be here now if you're Wayne Dyer. Anyway, I think I've babbled on enough. I actually got more out of her than I did the rest of this video. How about you? Let me know in the comments section if you need more clarity about what Kundalini is, as opposed to what it isn't. Let me know. I'll see what I can do.
He's so very